Hello and welcome to For the Hawkra, your Seattle Seahawks podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. I'm Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy Clinton Bonner as we had some breaking news this past week. We had a bye week, and for the most part, it didn't go our way up until Monday night. Then it did go our way. So I feel like we have some NFC West stuff to talk about, Clinton. And we have the release of Tyrel Dodson to talk about. How you doing, buddy?
I am one of those things I'm super excited about. And the other one I'm just curious about. You probably can guess which lane I'm going in each. So let's start with the great news. I enjoyed watching the Rams look, just broken. They didn't look good. They're not moving the ball very, very well. It does make me wonder, can we actually get some sacks? Because I could watch the Dolphins team get home against the Rams. And while we had pressure, Brandon, we didn't get home versus the Rams while they racked up 7 sacks against us. But here come the Dolphins, not only getting pressure, but bringing Stafford to the ground quite a bit. Either way, always a delight to watch the Rams go down in flames, and they're tied with us. So, suck on it, Rams.
Yeah. How did we not beat that Rams team? Like, it hasn't been that long. And then to see the Dolphins with, I felt like there was a path to victory. I suppose and they even turned it over a couple times. So
yep, they did.
It made me more frustrating that we made me more frustrated that we actually lost to that LA Rams team.
Yeah, and still fun to watch the Rams lose. Yeah, I mean, frustrating, but was that the little joy there for you?
That was the little joy, because it, as bad as it would have been to be at the bottom of the NFC West all by ourselves, at least we have some company, despite the fact they have us on that one game that they win over us. Technicality, if we end up going down there, getting the win as we should have the first time when they came up to Seattle, then that'll wash out. And but I don't know. It kind of depends on what we're playing for at this point in the year too.
Yeah, and I know we'll get into the Dodson news. I do want to discuss that and what does it signal? Are there things we can glean from it? Is it just a panic move? Is it exactly what Mike wants? Because it just feels weird and timing's weird. And back to the NFC West though too. Like now we got what, 3 games in the next 3 weeks, but we play the Cardinals twice and the Niners, right? Is that what's happening in the next 3 weeks? Do I have that right?
Yeah, Niners coming up and then Cardinals.
Yeah. Okay. So, and the Cardinals are playing good like that. I know it's the Jets, and I know the Jets it looks like they've checked out a little bit. Like, not like, guys like Will McDonald's not playing hard off the edge. They're still playing, not like, DJ Reed and Sauce are not trying out there. They are. But the Cardinals look good. And I hate to say it, but they look competent. They look fluid.
This happens every year. We get to the point where oh, maybe the Cardinals are legit, and then they go on a huge losing streak and they're not legit. So it seems like we get to this point every year. And I mean, this is a year full of surprises, Clinton. And in that type of year, they got a lot of experts getting it wrong. And that's when you go to mybookie.ag. You use your promo code HAWKRA, HAWKRA, and you get your 100% deposit bonus. And then you start capitalizing off of the fact that, maybe people are a little bit too high on the Cardinals coming off a big win over the Jets, who aren't good.
Right. So you might be able to throttle that a bit, maybe catch the wave, and folks are now all high and mighty on the Cardinals, and you kind of zig when they're zagging, or zag when they're zigging, if you will. And if you're getting the 100%, bonus match there, well, you got a little extra Scott to play, and you're feeling pretty good about your chances. So hit that promo code, use it again. What's the URL one more time, Brandon?
mybookie.ag and the promo code HAWKRA, HAWKRA.
All right. Awesome. Hit that. So, and one thing I know that is never disappointing, we gotta flash this. Of course, we got our Ryan 911 Frost in the Discord coming in, our live executive producer, with the $9.99 super chat and the very simple, but the very on point, go Hawks. Thank you, Ryan.
Recognize Eric the Seahawk joining us in chat, saying so glad to hear Abe Lucas is likely to be back next game. Don't jinx it, Eric. Come on now.
But hey, look, Eric, you can do what you do. I'm not mad at you, no matter what Brandan says there. But that is the thing is, it's such a unknown. It's like such a mystery box, like all the way through. Will he play? We don't know. Will he be effective? We don't know. Like, will he come in and just be Pro Bowl level Abe Lucas? We don't know. Can we? But even with all that mystery, I don't care. Like what's how much worse could it be than 7 sacks versus a Rams team that's okay at getting home, but not that good? That right-hand side's been an absolute disaster. So is there some threshold for you, Brandan, or is it just like, hey, just don't suck and get in there, Abe? Is there something else you're looking for in week 1? Abe, that is.
If he's back, I'm happy for him and the fact that he made it back. And I have the sense that he wouldn't be back if he weren't able to come right in and make a difference, because they've held off this long. Are you with Blue and Green Zone to go back to the Cardinals? That they're scary?
Well, I mean, look.
Are you a believer?
Oh God. Yeah, because I've watched enough of their games where I'm like, scary might be overdoing it. Competent and looking like they could pick apart bad defenses or scheme against them. That I see. I see Connor running the crap out of the ball. I see them making enough holes and sometimes blowing dudes off the line against what are good defensive lines. And then I got to give props to what I see from Kyler. Kyler's been accurate. He's been on time. What was he last game? Like 22, 24, 24, 28, something stupid. And when he's in rhythm and he has the touch pass going, he could be an effective quarterback. So scary, we shall see. Dangerous, absolutely.
I just feel like I get to this point to where I'm jumping on the believe train.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just doesn't it feel a little bit. I mean, what are they, 6-4 now? Right? They've
had undefeated seasons where it's like, oh man, Kyler's really got the NFL figured out finally. Now they're going to start tearing it up, and then
it falters, right? So, all right. Well, I want to believe in how you see it. I hope that's the outcome, and maybe it's just a patch of them playing.
Hey, part of it is what I want to believe too.
I want to believe the part that you believe. I do think this is interesting too, from Blue and Green Zone asking, were you guys interested in Mike Macdonald's comments about maybe moving Connor to guard and then probably sliding, I would imagine, Olu into center? I mean, color me interested, Brandan. I don't know about you, but we have sincere problems at center. We have sincere problems at guard. The only part for me that's like, yuck, is that Connor was a worse guard than he was a center.
He wasn't a terrible guard.
I didn't use the word terrible. I said he was a worse guard than he was a center.
But even if he is a worse guard than center, I feel like he would be an improvement over the worst guard that Laken Tomlinson already is right now.
Very well. The deltas with the switch could be exactly right. It's like you move him over there, you shuffle this guy leaves, and you get the addition by subtraction. Could be, again, with this whole season, especially the offensive line, it might as well be a giant magic 8-ball at this point, between Abe and what are they going to do at center and what are they doing with these two guards, and flopping in Haynes, who then can't make the field because he just seemingly can't at all pass protect or run block. Pass protect.
It's right? A little bit of both.
Yeah, it's kind of both, right?
He is a worse run blocker. Than he is a better pass protector than run.
Yeah. Blocker. Okay. That's the flop, right? And Bradford's the other. But what a 8-ball. And maybe not the magic kind, right? It's just been like you don't know what you're gonna get. And also then it carries us over to the other side of the coin we want to talk about is, I mean, what's it been now? 4 weeks? Within 4 weeks, we basically let go, whether you call it a release or whatever the nomenclature is. We basically cut our 2 starting linebackers within a span of about a month. That doesn't feel good. And I don't know where it sits with you, but the Dodson one to me kind of came out of left field. It's like, really? We're going to cut another linebacker? How do you square it?
Well, okay. There's a there's a lot to get into within the offensive line and on the defensive side with T Dot. And
Mm.
I guess it's with when you compare those two things, like you go into the bye week, you're expecting, okay, maybe Mike Macdonald, he really evaluates this team. He wants to make some changes. And the most significant change coming out of the bye week is that you take an area where you're already deficient at depth and release a player who is your leading tackler. Like that, to me, that doesn't square logically, right? Because if you would have gone and said, and maybe the big surprise would have been, oh, we're changing center, but it's not going to be Oluwatimi like everybody thought. Maybe it's Jalen Sundell. Maybe he's
Yeah.
the surprise backup guy who's taken over for Connor. But at the same time, okay, think of it this way: offensive line, not great depth. If you were to come out and say, well, we're not only you know, taking Connor out of the center position, we're just going to outright release him. Like that wouldn't
Mm.
make sense to me either. And so I feel like that's similar to what they're doing with Dotson. And there is a cap savings that goes along with it, like 1.2 million.
Yeah, small, right?
But that seems relatively small.
But also, what I mean, okay, cap savings for this year. Okay, well, what are we doing? What are we doing with that $1.2 million?
Right.
It's and I like the analogy, or like the other example you gave. It say, hey, this would be tantamount to let it go Williams, and I kind of agree. It's man, this one kind of came out of left field. Baker seemed to make more sense, and it seemed like we had more eyes on Baker not running the scheme effectively, right?
And they got a piece back for him.
Correct, right? And yes, and they got something back for him. Now, of course, we've got Tyrese Knight sitting in the wings, and this is what I want to rotate the conversation over to, and really try and dive in a little bit and see where, again, can it square? Is we had Griffin Sturgeon from Seattle Overload on just, whatever, a couple days ago, right? And I thought that was a great conversation. Obviously, Griff is going to dive, if you know him, he's going to dive more into the X's and O's, like that's his stuff. So he's talking about how the Seahawks really changed their front scheme to go from two high into one high, and then they mixed in bare fronts, which is just another way to play the run, and a more successful way to play the run. And that the Seahawks effectively, and really Mike Macdonald effectively changed his stripes overnight and decided to just play everybody in their gap and just go straight up the field. And it worked. We had much, much better run defense versus the Rams than we did any of the teams in the previous like 5-6 weeks within this 1-5 stretch. So now, okay, it worked. And Ernest Jones is here. And it works so well that we cut a linebacker, and now we get to play a rookie. And the piece I guess I want to ask you is, do you think this is now signaling, okay, maybe it worked for 1 week where Mike was just kind of out of ideas, like just go play the simpler way, right? Just go to your gap, go straight, play your gap, and play that way, versus what they've been asking the linebackers to do, which is react to where the running back makes a choice and basically be available for two gaps and read the running back versus just hit the open gap. It's a much more complex offense, but it's supposed to allow you to cover, in the pass scheme better, because you've got the two safeties where they are. Anyway, all that being said, do you think now with this cut, do you think it signals that Mike is actually going to try again versus the 49ers to go back to what he did weeks 1-8, which has been a dumpster fire against the run, versus the simpler format, which worked in week 9? I mean, do you think it signals anything at all?
If I had to pick one, I would say it would be more of a signal that he would go back to what he was trying to do versus what just happened to work against the Rams, because I then it seems like it would be matchup specific to me. And it would also lead me to believe, okay, well, we saw that they could get the job done that way if they had to. And, maybe it's part of too, a recognition that it's going to take a little bit of time for Ernest Jones to kind of learn the defense and the parts that he needs to know or at least feel comfortable within the structure of Mike Macdonald's defense before he gets there, not having any kind of understanding of the type of schemes that he would play in LA or in Tennessee. So I could see that maybe being the more simplified option. So they could stick with it again against the Niners. But yeah, it also makes me think that he wants to get back to what he believes is the way to play defense, I'm sure.
And that's what scares me, right? And that scares me a lot, because I think there's a bit of hubris here, thinking again that tin cup syndrome, just one more try, just one more pattern, one more combination of talent. And look, you could look at it and say, well, maybe overall with Ernest and Tyrese, he feels he has the right dudes who can play it the way he wants to play it, which again is to be more reactionary, read the running backs, and then be able to go into either the A or the C or the B, just be able to be fluid between two different gaps versus just being, up the gap that they have to go fill. I think for me, I don't know, man, like here's my fear. My fear is you're correct. I had the same conclusion. My conclusion is this move signals to me he thinks it's personnel more than his scheme. When we hear, Griffin talk about it, and the first thing I asked him was like, hey, in the offseason, you and Maddie talked about that the Ravens run D in the second half of 2023 was bottom of the league, like 32nd against the run, but nobody talked about it because they caused turnovers and they got home on the quarterback. It was masked. So now we got basically a full year, 8 weeks of Ravens crap on run D, and then 8 weeks of our crap on run D. Maybe this is just a bad scheme. And that scares the crap out of me, especially against the Niners who come back loaded with CMC. I am worried. I was very, very like, ooh, we could beat the Niners. This news happened. My mind starts dancing, Brandan, and goes, he's going to go back to it. And I think we're going to be sitting there like the end of the half, and it's, I don't know, 14-3 Niners, and CMC's got 75 yards, and we're going like, what do we do?
Yeah. I think that, and I want to get back to the truth, as I know it's a comment there that I popped up on screen, but for those listening, I wanted to read it out too. So remind me to go back to that. But to address what you're talking about there, Clinton, I think that I'm okay, if this makes any sense, with our team being a bad run defense if we're winning football games. Like again, this goes to the yards don't matter commentary. If we're getting out yarded on the ground, okay, that's what that last ranking signifies, right? It just means that you're allowing a lot of yards. But if your defense is doing the other things that it needs to do to limit points of the other team, and if your offense is has that ability to then outscore your opponents, like the Ravens were able to do to their teams last year, okay. I don't mind.
No, I mean, it obviously worked for the Ravens until it didn't, but I don't think in the playoffs, to me, that was not a defensive meltdown. The defense played good again, and they just didn't run the ball in that game. I was like, what are you doing? They just decided not to. But
their offense decided not to. Their offense broke.
It broke at the worst possible time.
Yeah.
It's like playing fantasy football, and like you're kicking butt, and you're the 1 seed, et cetera, et cetera. And then just the week you need it, let's say it's semifinals, whatever, your dudes just don't show up. And you're like, there's nothing you can do. It happens all the time in fantasy football. Ask Keith Ketover. Sorry, Flocktimus. Like you get snake bit every single year. We're like the best teams. And then like, semifinal week, 4 of your dudes just have duds. And that's what the Ravens threw out that week. They just had a dud in the playoffs, but it wasn't the defense. But again, I think it's also like, we're not showing any propensity to really turn the ball over. Not a lot, not a huge propensity. Where like last year, Geno Stone had, what did he have, like 89 interceptions by week 7. So it's a little bit more high variant and reliant. I really do think I'm such an optimist that I do think that we could win this game, that we could beat the 49ers. And I don't think it's not la la land. It's not like, oh my gosh, here's a Pollyanna. Yeah, they could beat the Niners. it's like I watched the Tampa Bay game. The Niners are on the ropes. They're not that good, meaning the Niners. And Tampa
Yeah.
Bay is a fairly, like, they're a bubble playoff team. They may or may not make it, but they're talent-wise a bubble team. But they had them. They could have and should have won that game. Just once
Are you
again,
going to count on their field goal kicker missing 3 field goals in a game in a second straight week?
no. No, I am not. Right. I was hoping for a fourth last week, and we didn't quite get that. Now,
No, we didn't.
Yeah.
The truth as I know it, with the comment, and this to me, it speaks to, I understand from a organizational standpoint why you would go ahead and release Dotson, and he's saying here, if we would have benched Dotson, it would hurt his free agency next season, and other players would be wary of coming. It was the right thing for the player. It's just trying to balance that right thing for the player versus right thing for the team. It just seems to me that you get an injury then at linebacker, and now all of a sudden you're going, geez, it'd be awfully nice if we had Tyrel Dodson on the team, because the depth continues to be poor behind, because we haven't seen a ton of Tyrese Knight. We hope that he's going to be the guy. But when you hear Mike Macdonald also talking about how they might give looks to Drake Thomas,
Right.
depending on how that goes. So,
Yeah.
Well,
that's the other potential silver lining for me, is that this is like a Mulder Scully thing. Like, I want to believe Drake Thomas can do it. And again, it's not like unfounded. It's watching, sure, limited tape when he was with the Raiders, and then watching dudes who really know football, like Brett Coleman and EJ, being like, the Seahawks stole this guy, Drake Thomas, off of the Raiders squad. They thought he would clear. This is 2 years ago now. And then he gets the injury, of course. They thought he would clear. He doesn't clear. He ends up on the Seahawks. And then he's injured. You got to remember too, right? He's injured throughout basically the entire preseason, plays for half a second in the preseason, and makes the 53. So there just might still be this ace in the hole where they're like, look, we have some sneaky depth that folks just don't understand, that if Drake Thomas has to go play, it's actually going to be like a plug and play solid linebacker with maybe some rushing upside. But at this point, 2 years on the Drake Thomas experiment, I could only have that hope for so long. Like, all right, well, if that's the case, then play the guy. Let's see it.
I never had that hope to begin with. So
I mean,
here you are carrying it with you.
Right. I will carry it for the Seahawkers podcast, right? But the tape from college and the preseason tape for him was so good. It was just like, you put on a random game of football, even a college game, and within 30 seconds you'd be like, oh, that guy knows how to play football. Like, it's just the dude stands out. He knows how to play football. And I really feel that very often linebacker is one of those positions where you could get that instant, like, that dude just knows how to flow to the ball. That, he knows how to take on contact. He's got a nose for it. I see that with Drake Thomas. But again, 2 years into this experiment, or like a year and a half in, if this all nets out to, we get a solid game or two, like a real trial for Drake Thomas, whether it succeeds or not. But if this nets out to, we get to see him actually go out there and start or play 50% of the snaps, then I could live with that gamble, because we'll get an answer. And in a season where we're 4-5, where I think I sent you a text today, Brady Henderson put out the stats. What was it? Seattle's got like a 6.3% chance of making the playoffs. They have like a 4x chance of being in the top 10 in the draft. Like, it's like 28% will be in the top 10 of the draft versus make the playoffs. I would like to see the experimentation then. So maybe that's the silver lining, is we'll get to see Knight, we'll get to see Thomas, and we'll know without having to guess going into another season, like, do we have to go draft dudes or make trades?
So now you're an analytics guy when it comes to our chances to making the playoffs. Is that what I'm hearing?
Big analytics guy. Big. Yeah, I calculated all of it myself, which, by the way, I will say, when Brady sends that out and it says the Seahawks have a 6.3% chance of making the playoffs, I get it. I understand they're crunching numbers. I understand that. But the division is completely compressed. Now, I understand the Niners play better than us, and so have the Cardinals. I get that. But the division's super compressed. Like, we could still win the division. Like, why can't we go win the next 2 games? We could. That's how Magic 8 Ball this entire season is, dude.
If we go out and the Seahawks win the next 2 games, we are going to be back to this delusional place. Morgan Barclay in chat saying we're so glad we're not 6-3 and delusional again. We'll be delusional again if our Seahawks go out and win 2 straight, because then we're going to be looking at the division a whole lot differently. Now, Brady Henderson with those statistics, it makes it look unlikely. 5th hardest remaining strength of schedule.
Yep.
That's not great.
No.
6.4% chance to make the playoffs. Not great. Yeah.
Nope. That's about 1 in 20, right? So it's hovering. It's a little better than that. It's like 1 in 19, the chances to make the playoffs, but it ain't over.
No. Part of that strength of schedule is because all of the other opponents that we have in our NFC West division, we've either lost to or they have a better record than us.
Right. Which is to say not great.
And in some cases, both, like with the team that we're playing again.
Yeah, exactly. Some cases, both. But it will be. So I guess my question for you: are you more excited to see Tyrese Knight over Drake Thomas? Is that a fair, like, that's where you're at? You want to see Tyrese and see what he can do?
Yeah. And Tyrese is the named starter based on Mike Macdonald's comments, and it would be Thomas that comes in, and maybe they'll do similar to how they've done at the right guard position, giving guys, 70-30% in terms of how they do the snaps, maybe 80-20, just to kind of work in another guy in there and see how he does for a series. I could see that happening.
Yeah, me too. And it's going to be an interesting weekend for sure. I have this every now and again when the seasons go on, I get these pangs of, like, I think we're going to win this week. I don't know. And even when we do PNW Prop Stars and we do What If,
did you have that when you picked the Rams in all of your prop bets on PNW Prop Stars?
I flamed out on all the bets, but yet somehow the Rams still win the frigging game. Right. So, and why? Because we played a simpler defensive scheme that I'm hoping Mike Macdonald realized worked better. And he's humble enough to be like, let's just do what worked. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be there. However, and that's the thing. Like, I'll know. I think we'll know right away. And this is why I like this episode, is because I want to give folks something to go watch. It's like, well, look, are we out there in 2 high? Are we out there in 1 high? Are there bear fronts out there? And remember, bear fronts are where you're taking your 2 defensive ends. They're spread apart, basically on the edge, and then you got a nose tackle, right? So you got those big gaps in the middle, but then your linebackers fill those gaps. It's just 1-2. There you go. And it's a really good defensive scheme to stop the run. I think we'll know within, let's say, 20 minutes of the clock, so a quarter and a half of the clock, like, is Macdonald just tin cupping this thing and thinking he could do it with just different personnel? I just hope he's a little more humble and just goes with the simple thing that clearly worked more effectively. And I don't know. To me, it's going to be evident really early in the game, Brandon.
I want to thank everybody who is joining us live. Be sure and hit the like button, hit subscribe if you have not seen us here already. And the truth, as I know it, asking PNW Prop Stars, is that your website? PNW Prop Stars is a show that we do here on YouTube. It usually comes out on Saturdays ahead of the game, and Clinton and Adam and Wilson Kahn get together and they give their favorite prop bets, and then often lose those prop bets the following Sunday. It's a really fun way to watch the game, because you can go, oh, hey, these are the bets that aren't going to work this week.
I wish I had a bet. I wish I had a good rebuttal, but this has been a brutal year. But it is a fun way to watch the game. So yeah, the truth as I know it, we'll look at and say, okay, I think K9's getting 55 plus yards this week on the ground, and we'll give reasons as to why. Right? We'll back that up with some facts and logic. But it has been a boy, have we been missing a lot this year.
So you can
But that's
find that
okay.
here out on YouTube, or you can subscribe to For the Hawkra. Go look in your podcast feed and do a little search for the Hawkra, Hawkra, and yeah, hit the follow button, because now all the subscribe buttons are changing to follow, because I think people thought, or the marketing people believe that there's a cost that comes along with the subscription, but there's no cost to following.
Gotcha. So follow along, and especially and out here on youtube.com/Seahawks podcast, please, the likes, the subscribes, and if you want to join as a member. And then, of course, also, Brandan, for our members of the flock that get to play along and hang out in the Discord, there's other things that they get to go do, but that's a website. So let's tell folks where they should do that.
Yes, getintheflock.com. You can join there. If you want to think about subscribing, even at getintheflock.com, you don't have to pay. You can just go there. You can join for free, and that way you get emails of when new shows go out that are part of our network. And but if you want to help support the show, get you under our Discord. We chat on game day, and it's a good time, just like PNW Prop Stars.
It sure is. And nice words from Carly Perkins there, saying, she goes, I don't even bet. And Prop Stars is one of my favorite of the Seahawks shows. So thank you, Car. Very much appreciate it. Car, by the way, that's her name in the Discord that Brandan was just talking about. Called you Brendan. Never again. You're not a Brendan. And let's also tell folks, hey, it's Tuesday.
I'll even take Brandan, like it's spelled.
Yes. Oh, the Brandan, which we got to get back to for of course, for 3 and 3 out. So I guess let's tell folks what's coming up for the rest of the week. We're doing this as kind of a bi-week bonus show on Tuesday. We figured we'd go live, and we're getting back to regularly scheduled programming. So come Thursday, Brandan, what do we have coming up Thursday?
Why do you throw this out at me? Like, I feel like you had an answer to this. Is that our
I
flagship
did.
show day?
Yeah. Okay, well, the flagship will come out whether that's Wednesday or Thursday, right? And that's our long form video that Brandan and Adam have been putting on for over a decade now. Amazing. And then What If will be out Thursday or Friday. What If is our preview show for those that might be new to it, where Mr. Phil comes in and gives us this delightful theme, and we'll preview the show in a really unique way. And then there's going to be a pick show on Friday, which is tons of fun. PNW Prop Stars, that'll come out Saturday. We'll be doing a live show on Sunday, a recap show or a live reaction show with Brandan and Adam. And hopefully, Brandan, I really do think that come Sunday, you and Adam are going to be celebrating a Hawks victory as we somehow, some way, get back to 500, and the delusion washes over us for at least one more week.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.